challenge of humbly acknowledge that they had a problem, they needed help, and that they needed to change. I want to thank the men who refused, who said they were too proud, too damaged, too entitled, or too angry, the guys we couldn't reach, because they taught us something about the limits of our own grandiosity. I want to thank the clients who showed us that we had to diversify our approaches in order to reach them. And an emphatic thank you to the men who helped each other by growing in cohesive fellowships to reach out to each other, confront each other, hold each other accountable, and to support each other. And a very special thanks to an old African-American man who gave me this gem about the role of personal responsibility in spiritual and personal growth. He said, "Mr. Paul, grace is like sunshine, but you gotta open the blinds." I want to thank the partners, the wives and the girlfriends of the men who came to our programs. Those who bravely stood up and said enough, those who honestly could not or would not give their man another chance. I want to congratulate those women whose relationships or marriages now work better because they finally made their man work hard to change. I want to pay a special homage and thanks to the woman who called me several years back. She called me after her husband had committed suicide while talking to her on the phone. To my astonishment, she thanked me. She said, "Thank you, because if it wasn't for your program, he probably would have killed me and our son as well." Which leads me to, I want to thank the local battered women's groups. Women Against Abuse, Women in Transition, Lutheran Settlement House, Congresso's Bilingual Domestic Violence Program, the Montgomery County Women's Center. If you have worked for any of those or are working for them now, would you please stand up briefly? Wow. Okay. Thank you for laying all the groundwork. Without your work with survivors and victims, there'd be no work with perpetrators, or certainly no good work with perpetrators. Thank you for showing us the way, for warning us to be careful, for holding us accountable while we were doing what could be kind of dangerous work with the partners of your clients. Thank you for working cooperatively with us. Thank you for giving us some space. Thank you for directing us to Barbara Hart. She deserves a very special thanks. She served as the legal counsel for the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence, but she was much, much more than that for us. She was our unofficial guide, supervisor, accountability monitor, teacher, mentor, mama figure, older sister, friend. She was the feminist guru. She told us over and over to take direction from battered women. And I took great pride in being her loyal opposition for lots of years. We argued vividly in meetings. I think she always knew I was basically with her. But we split hairs over many a subject. She's a great, wonderful person. And she shaped a lot of what we do. When I started, the heads of the women's groups here said, "You go to Barbara Hart." I did monthly pilgrimages. So I also want to thank the Institute for Safe Families for filling in the gaps and creating an invaluable service here in Philadelphia. ISF is a think tank, a training center, a salon, a grant concept incubator, a laboratory, a progressive advertising firm, an ombudsman center, and a comforting place to nosh and conspire against domestic violence. You're good people. Thank you very much. So I also want to thank Family Service of Philadelphia. May it rest in peace. They gave us a warm home for 10 years. And it was a home that had lots of encouraging, smart clinicians, a very good supportive administrative staff, and actually guidance too. They had a nice development program. They were good people. They let us run what up to that point was the largest family violence conference that had ever been held. It was 1988. That conference, we had like 100 workshops. It was kind of amazing. They also gave us the space and the support to run a monthly brown bag discussion series with lots of vivid conversations and some provocative topics. You can see the man on the rack over there. I even want to thank them for the final executive director who made it possible for me to facilitate leading family service before it actually sank. It gave me a chance to start Menergy and continue this work in a different fashion. So thanks for all of that. I want to thank a couple of personal friends. My wife, Gloria Detweiler. She's a loving, supportive woman who has put up with my vividness, even as I toned it down. 33 years, so that's pretty good. Wow. I appreciate it. Thanks to David Dan. He showed me how to write a business plan when I left family service, and he was a real mensch, and I'm always appreciate that. And Jerry Lindauer, he said, if anyone can succeed at this, you can. And he seemed to mean it at the time, and that was really, really important. I appreciate that. And I want to celebrate all the wonderful staff who have worked, about 19 of them, for either Project Rep or Menergy. In a little while, I want to introduce you to them one at a time. But before that, I'll just sort of give you a little bit of background, a bit of history as to where this comes from, what the work was like when I got into it. Right? So, the bulk of the initial formative work in this field, when I got in 25 years ago, no problem. The bulk of the work, there were maybe, I guess, 13 or 14 programs in the country when I started Project RAP for Family Service of Philadelphia. Most of those programs were run by small enclaves of progressive, pro-feminist men who worked in collectives, who were not professionals. Some of them had some training, but most of them were really kind of organizer types. They were organized